Brand new year, brand new piece of slop. Okay, assumingly you're a new Hearts of Iron 4 player and you're wondering where to start in this game that is now almost 10 years old. There's been so many updates, so many DLCs, so much added and changed to the game that realistically I do think there's no better time to get into Hoi 4 than right now. But I can understand if you're a new player and you've only been looking at some videos, you just got the game potentially from Santa after this Christmas, that you are a little bit lost. So this isn't a guide in the traditional sense, it is going to show you what you should be doing and what you should not be doing for your first few hours in Hoi 4. Okay, first things first, big old elephant in the room, DLC. Now, my opinion is that you should go into Hoi 4 without paying for any DLC. If you've just got the base game, go for that. If you really want to try some DLC, then go for the subscription. If there's something in the subscription that you like, buy them individually. But if you're really going to go off the beaten path here and you're going to buy some DLC immediately, here's what I recommend. Since a lot of the DLC that's been integrated into the base game now is actually what I would consider almost fundamental, there's only a couple left that realistically you do need, and the rest you can ignore. And those are definitely going to be No Step Back. You want to get No Step Back pronto. Of all the features that are locked behind DLC currently, the one that really kind of annoys me the most is both designers and also the army officer cores. Those being locked away sucks. Now, of course, on top of that, you do get yourself new Soviet and Polish national focus trees on top of the mechanics that make the gameplay way better. So it's definitely a must in my opinion if you are going to buy some DLC. And then the other one I highly recommend is both Gotterdamn Rung and Arms Against Tyranny. Gotterdamn Rung has the German focus tree that I think is a lot of fun for most people. Also adds in special projects, which again, you should definitely go ahead and do. There'll be a lot of fun for you your first time around. And then Arms Against Tyranny isn't exactly what I would consider the most important of DLCs to get. Some people might even say La Resistance is probably more important because it gives you the espionage stuff, which some people, yes, some people no to it. But Arms Against Tyranny will give you access to the international market, which can be very helpful for a new player if you're struggling with equipment quite a lot. Also, more important, it will set you up down the line pretty nicely by understanding what MIOs are and what they can do. Now, like I said, the only real important DLC I recommend you get is No Step Back and potentially Gotterdamn Rung and Arms Against Tyranny. I'd say get Gotterdamn Rung just so you can enjoy the German tree, and there's a lot of potential in here, a lot of replayability in these trees, and you also get the Austrian and Hungarian tree, I believe, so there's a lot of stuff in Gotterdamn Rung alone that's going to keep you busy. Whereas No Step Back is more fundamentally just about getting this officer core, which will help you out quite a bit. Okay, now, assumingly we've got the DLC out of the way and you've decided what you're going to do with that, no matter how you're dealing with it, I may add, I can't tell you exactly what you should be doing with the DLC, but I'm sure you can figure it out for yourself if you don't want to get the DLC. Question is now, who should you play? Now, I'm just going to assume out the bat here that you've been watching me or some other YouTuber, or you've looked into Hoi 4 before, that you know at least what's going on. You know that there are front lines, you know that there are national focuses, so I'm not going to baby you and be like, hey, this is what the game is. Now, off the bat, for your very first game, I wouldn't recommend just jumping on a major right off unless you're really confident you've watched a lot of Hoi 4 and you reckon you can do just as well as anyone else who's played this game for a multitude of hours. I would go onto a minor nation. I think Canada's a pretty good place to start in Hoi 4. It is actually now free in the base game of Hoi 4. Together Victory was the DLC that gave them their national focus, and it's a pretty basic focus tree off the bat, but you do get pretty powerful. Now, you're obviously kind of locked up just being an allied chud. You know, you gotta help good old Britain push the Germans back to where they came from. But through your focus tree, you can get yourself some really good tanks off the bat. So you can learn both about how tanks work, what to do with them, and on top of that, how to manage your industry, as Canada can now get the full bonuses from their focus tree that they didn't used to get, where you used to be able to have to choose between going ahead and getting an industry and getting full manpower. Now though, it's pretty chill. And even, I might be a little bit out of here if, I suggest this. You could even play around with Navy as Canada. You do get a little bit of research and support in your focus tree to try out Navy, which some people, I mean, if you're a beginner player, I don't recommend going for, but a lot of people are really into their naval history. And they do like playing around with the little boats, moving them around and having fun. So overall, I do think Canada is a great place to start, but if you're feeling a little bit more confident, go ahead, look south to your neighbor. US is also an amazing country that you can start off that has relatively secure borders where you don't have to worry about getting invaded. Their focus tree isn't the best, but that's what you want to do for a new player. You don't want a focus tree that's too overly complicated where you can mess up. You've got, like I said, relative secure borders. You don't have to worry about threats anywhere else in the, I guess, direct vicinity. You will have to obviously worry about Japan, but you do know Japan is coming, and you do have to prepare for that. So I think the US is a great nation to start us in Hoi 4. Again though, if you're feeling even braver, have your first game as the Germans. Now this is going to be a completely chaotic game. I do recommend you at least look into how the systems of Hoi 4 work, and you've done the tutorial in the game, but boy will it be a fun way to go down, burning, crashing, and having all the fun you can. Now if you're looking for a bit of relative security playing the Germans, you could obviously go a historical. You can rally the Wehrmacht and win the Civil War, which isn't too difficult to do. Or if you really want to play a historical Germany game, you can go ahead and do prioritize economic growth and not worry about Germany and their military industrial debuffs. This will give you a bit more time where you can take obviously more time to have your German game and not worry about the crippling debuffs that will come if you're not fast enough. Now it's a wild suggestion to throw someone who's probably never played Hoi 4 before on the Germans, but I do think it could be a lot of fun, and there is a lot to learn from losing in this game. And whilst I do think the German tree is a little bit complex, I don't think it's the most complex in how to mess up in terms of focus trees across this game. For the most part, it's relatively straightforward. There's nothing to mess up. The only thing that can really throw a spanner in your transmission there is going down the historical route, the 4-year plan, where you will get some pretty horrible debuffs if you're not good enough. And speaking of which, a lot of nations with updated content in the game will actually have a historical tab over here where you can follow and look which path you are supposed to go down if you want to keep context, let's just say historical. Now, a lot of nations in the game don't have this historical tab. Unfortunately, I kind of hope that they do go back at some point and actually add that in, but a lot of nations don't realistically need it. But some of the newer trees are I would say overly complicated, but they've got a lot more in there that you can get lost. So if you ever feel super lost for some reason, you want to do a historical game, just click these tabs up here. They could both be super helpful in terms of just knowing where you're going, but also if you just want to look for research stuff, boom, there you go, it's highlighted. So in 2026, those are the nations that I suggest you play as at the start of your very first game. Canada would be the safe bet, America would be a little less safe, Germany would be absolutely horrendous, but probably a lot of fun. Now here's another thing, don't worry about your first games going terribly, alright? Everyone's first games go terribly, and don't be afraid to save scum. Don't be afraid to open up the console and, type help in so that you get a list of what to type in, just in case you ever need to cheat. Now, also, don't recommend actually playing on the lower difficulties of this game because overall, you're just probably going to get super reliant on these horrible buffs that you get given. Now, I do say horrible for a reason, because I think if you just go off the bat into civilian difficulty, look at that. I mean, that, if you don't know too much about Hoi 4, probably doesn't mean too much, but any normal Hoi 4 player that looks at that is like, damn, am I playing Rota 56? I do think you should just stick to regular difficulty. Just ignore the difficulty at all down here. Just enjoy the game on regular, which is how it's supposed to be played, and get used to it, because the sooner you get used to it, the more fun you can have in the game. Now, again, if you're looking for more things to do in your first games and you're kind of lost as who to start as, if you're not just having fun by playing the game, actually getting in and learning how to do things, watching countless tutorials, or just learning on the spot, and you want a bit more guidance, I think a lot of people get, a little bit lost in the game. Sure, if you just want to play the Germans, win World War II, sure, that's a lot of fun. You want to play as the British, you want to win World War II historically, you can do that. But if you want to give yourself a bit more of a railroad to this game, I recommend something that a lot of people probably won't even think of. And that is achievements. There are hundreds of achievements in Hoi 4, and they do make the game a lot of fun. Maybe not for your first few games would I recommend achievements, but they give you something to strive for. And some of them can also help you just learn the game. I mean, as Canada, join the Axis, friend in need, join a faction, research construction 5. It gives you just a little bit of an extra dopamine hit every now and again when playing your games. But do bear in mind that this is older Paradox Iron Man mode, where you actually have to enable it to allow achievements, and you can't cheat. There's some Paradox games nowadays, they let you save scum, stuff like that, and there are ways to save scum with Iron Man mode in Hoi 4, but it's so convoluted, it's not what you should be doing, but we all do it. But if you're a little bit more confident and you want to give yourself a bit more of a challenge and something to strive for, do try out achievements. A lot of people just, they don't give them much thought, but for me, I think it is great to just have a goal that's kind of off the beaten path sometimes, and it does make your games a bit more interesting. Again, only if you're potentially, I could be wrong, this could not help a lot of new people if you're just new to the game, but I think it does give you a bit of a railroad. Now, of course, when I say achievements, I'm looking at like the ones up here that the majority, or I say the majority, 20% of players have joined a faction. Fellas, what are we doing? I'm looking at like all these basic ones that you can see that are pretty easily attainable for most people, not the ones that are, down here. Battle royales, communists trying to fight both China and Japan before 1940 within 90 days, being at war with each other and capitulate both of them. I mean, I'm not saying that, all right? Now, I've already done a kind of beginner's guide to Hoi 4, but I do want to go ahead and give some updated templates and stuff that I'm currently using in Hoi 4 that I find to be super useful. So I'm just going to go through a few of the basic texts that you'll need that will carry you through the game and what doctrines I'm currently using. Okay, starting off, the plane template that I always use that has been in use for the longest time is obviously just whatever best plane you have. I usually start with the 3rd airplane fighter because that's usually the one that you can keep around the longest. It's easy to rush. Then make sure you get your survivability studies, you get your heavy MG right next to it, you get your drop tanks, and you get your engines free. As you upgrade, I mean, you will upgrade at some point, you'll carry on this template to the next version of the airplane and the next engine. And I'm going to reveal everybody uses this template for the most part. It can be changed around. There are ones that can beat this, but for the cost and just playing single player, this will do fine. Just 3 heavy MGs, best single engine, not double engine you can put on, armored plates, self-sealing fuel tanks, and then extra fuel. I don't put the drop tanks on because they do lower your range, and they have the benefit of having more air defense, but I roll with the extra fuel tanks. They're better. Oh, also, I don't know if this has changed, but drop tanks give you 1 egg over the weight you need, but if you use this exact one, you'll be at the right weight. And then also with your MIOs, here's the tip I say all the time: set them once, you'll never have to do them again. So when you're going ahead, you're making your MIO, you go in here, and then if you hold shift, you can click and have it queued up, and as that MIO upgrades, it will just fill in and do it itself. You never have to look at it again. And I think Paradox also updated it so the MIO will actually upgrade with the plane now. You don't have to coming back in here and clicking the upgrade button. So that fighter will carry you on through the entire game, and then when you get the next chassis, do the exact same thing. You'll have an extra space for another machine gun, boom, put that on, and then you can choose between more fuel tanks if you want to get more range or more armored plates. Whatever is up to you. Now, for CAS, I actually just use a really cheap one now. Just simply 2 little small bomb bays, and then I put dive brakes, extra fuel tanks. Sometimes I take these off depending on if I really need some cheap CAS. And then same with the light MG machine gun. But you can literally just use CAS like this. Any amount of CAS, the cheaper the better, honestly. You can put out, just do that, like that, boom, that would be really good CAS. CAS works as long as you have green air. But for the most, I guess, long-term cost effectiveness, this is the CAS I use. Some people like to put on also a bomb lock. If you want to use a bomb lock, it can also do to naval strike, which is why people use it. I don't like to do that because I think it just burns through your cast super quick if you put them on naval strike. But just work with this. Only thing you need to know is simply putting those 2 bombs on the engine free, and then make sure you have dive brakes on. That's it. These other 2 are completely negotiable. Now, that was your planes, probably the most important thing you want to do. Second up is what your infantry is actually going to look like. I like to use a little something like this. For your offensive units, this is pretty good. If you're going purely defensive for a unit, you don't want to use these for pushing, take the artillery out, put a bit more infantry in, that'll do fine. These are good at holding, and you don't have to worry about burning through artillery that much. Now, there are a few things that I also use that will be related to the doctrine. I'm going to show you the best doctrine that you could probably use both for pushing and then also just for general gameplay. And this is just in my opinion. It's subjective completely. I don't know what the objective best opinion is on what is the current meta for doctrine, but just what I like to use. And I'm actually thinking superior firepower is the best doctrine in the game now. Simply from a single player perspective, that is. But I like to go superior firepower, then I go assault infantry, and then I go fire concentration. Armor, I barely use tanks, but if I am going to use them, I guess we'll just use armored infantry support. Now, the last one over here is where things get a little bit tricky, where I do sometimes change this around, but I do think it depends on what you're doing half the damn time. If you really want to go for the most overpowered infantry that you can make, then definitely go with rapid domination. This just assumes that you are stacking every single artillery buff that you can throw onto a unit, because you do get a lot of them. And also with this build as well, you want to go ahead and get yourself a signal company and put those on your infantry as well, because they'll give you an extra 10% soft attack. So I'll make you have a look at what this is going to look like. First off as well, if I am doing the super overpowered infantry thing, I will go right side mountaineers all the way down, because you'll get yourself another bonus for soft attack on your artillery by getting this little upgrade here. You won't be able to see just how powerful this unit is, but if you watch my videos, this is what I'm using. Once you get down your mastery, boom, that is what I'll be using. I've sometimes messed around as well with a few different things, in like adding rocket artillery in, or potentially adding another bit of artillery in and taking a unit out. But even without my doctrine being upgraded here, you can already see a few problems if you know too much about Hoi 4, and that's obviously the organization on these are super low. Even fully upgraded, I think these get up to around 50 or so orc, which is really not that great. They're super good at attacking, but they ain't that great on the orc front, which is why sometimes if I'm not going for a super sweaty build, I can't afford to do a super powerful artillery build. I'll go with mission type tactics instead. Doing that will give you a much safer build where you still get some really overpowered things added to your units and just way more organization, which is just overall better for you. So definitely, if you're going for just a safe Hoi 4 game, pure infantry and air, go for this doctrine. I think it's probably one of the best you can do, have a lot of fun with. Units are still pretty powerful, but not super powerful. But yeah, for the most part, you are just going to be experimenting this with yourself. But if you want a super safe one, like I said, replace that mission type tactics, and you should be good to not have to worry too much about your units. I think for your first few games, you probably don't have to worry too much about anything outside of infantry and air. If you're really struggling with a few things, you may also be thinking about Navy. Now, Navy for the most part is a little bit broken in the current patches with the new updated naval AI, new naval system, so I'll probably cover it just a little bit. This isn't a tutorial, like I said, just pointers. But essentially, what you want to do for Navy right now is have a fleet. Usually, I'll just use my starting fleet. Boom. Put it on patrol. This will now start looking for units. I will then have another Navy that will be stuck on strike force, and that will project power like it used to into an area. But you do have to have a unit in the CTOL, aka just patrolling, to actually build up strike force now. That's cool, right? Let's also now just go into what you're gonna want to build for your Navy. Naval meta has not changed at all. If you're gonna play this game, there's only a few things you're going to need. First off, go ahead, get at least basic fire control system. Then make sure, I'd say you get destroyers 2 for longevity, you at least get the basic depth charge, potentially up to depth charge thrower, and then also make sure you get passive sonar, and then get basic cruiser. Now, they did simplify a whole bunch of the naval gunnery in the second little slot here. All you need, again, is just this top line right here, and torpedoes too, I think, are a really good shout. And then you have all you need for Navy for the rest of the game, because the best naval setup you can do in this game is light cruisers spamming light attack. You can go for a real cheap light cruiser, like I said, add that fire control on. You can fill up as much as you want to your heart's content. If you just want a really cheap light cruiser though, this is good enough. Don't put armor on it, don't have to worry about radar or anything like that. Boom, this will do you. If you want a little bit of AA. Now you can also like fill these in later on. You can refit them if you want to add more on as you go, but this will do you nicely. Spam out loads of those and then also get yourself some destroyers. I think the destroyers you want to go with depend in what you're doing. Some people like to put depth charges on them. Sometimes I don't bother putting any depth charges on my destroyers. I just fill them out with a whole bunch of torpedoes and then one light gun on them, and that's it. And then also you can do that and probably radar, I guess. I don't know. It works for me. But if you're worried about submarines and you're playing against Germany per se, it's good to have depth charges on there so that you can take out submarines, and this will be do pretty good anyway. But essentially, if you come into battle, what is going to happen is that your light cruisers will go ahead with their light attack. They will spam out and destroy all of your enemy screens, which are their destroyers. And once those screens are destroyed, you will destroy all their big ships. So all you're going to want to do is make sure that your light attack is bigger than your enemy's light attack, which can be done pretty easy in single player. Different for multiplayer, but for single player, that's what you want to do. Whole bunch of these destroyers, whole bunch of these cruisers, it will do you for the rest of the game. And that's it. I could also go over tanks and stuff, but my tanks and the tanks I use are the same ones I do in my guide already. I think if you're getting into Hoi 4 for the first time, probably the best time you can hop in right now. And I did not even go over absolute gargantuan amount of good mods for this game. Some people may even recommend that you just go straight into modded Hoi 4, and I do think that probably would be a good shout if you don't have a lot of the DLC, or you just got the DLC that I suggested, that you go into something like Road to 56, or even Kaiserreich for the most part if you can put up with the lag, and just have yourself a whirlwind of a time, because some of it is probably going to be pretty confusing, especially how paths work and how things are very different in Kaiserreich. I do recommend you play some vanilla first, just get used to the basics, and then go into the modded Hoi 4 playthroughs. But yeah, hop on into Hoi 4. I guess if you have any other questions, feel free to like leave them down below. I'm gonna try and make some sort of super, I'm not sure what I'm gonna call it yet, kind of like a Q&A for Hoi 4 and things people get confused about, but I really want to understand what people get confused about the most in this game, so that I can kind of get all that data and information and then answer it in one big video. I don't know how to go about that just yet, but reading your comments is how I kind of gauge the ideas for the most part of someone that is new to Hoi 4 and what they look at when they get into this game. So a lot of your feedback will be super handy in the comment section down below, so please do leave it down there. And if anyone else has any cool tips for new people, feel free to leave them down below. I'd really like that to happen, and people don't just say get good, which you know what, actually no, you should get good by watching this video. But yeah, that's your slot for today. Goodbye.